What is up, and welcome into the block. I have got my guys, Carl Reed, Blake Brockermeyer, here ready to talk some college ball. A whole lot to get to on today's show. But before we do that, you at home, like, share, subscribe, continue to build up this brand new YouTube page, and continue to help us build up the block. Where do I want to start today, gentlemen? Because like I mentioned, lots to talk about. Let's talk about some news from today. Texas A&M wide receiver Ainias Smith was arrested Wednesday on charges of driving while intoxicated, unlawfully carrying a weapon, and possession of less than 2 ounces of marijuana, according to Brazos County jail records. Smith was scheduled to be at SEC Media Days for the Aggies, and now here we are. He led the Aggies in receptions in 2021. Now his status in 2022 could be up in the air. He has posted bond, but I want to know, Blake, what's your reaction to all of this?
Well, it's a heck of a way to get out of going to SEC Media Days, and unfortunate circumstances for him. But I think it's a bad look for Texas A&M because, it's a bad look for anyone if he gets arrested. But for a captain to be arrested, for a guy that's a leader of the football team to have that happen to him, right before camp starts is a bad look. It's not uncommon in college football for something like this to happen. But I think, the most important thing is that, if he needs any help, and Texas A&M needs to support him and get that done. And then I think most college football fans will want to know, will this affect his status for the season? That's something to keep an eye on. I think if you go off the history of some of the things that would happen, I know last year they had a player that was arrested for something similar. He didn't miss any time, I believe. But I think the gun charges are something that's concerning if I'm a fan. And also, they play Miami week 3, which is a huge game. And so I think he'll be available for those games most likely. But that's something to keep an eye on just because he's such an important player for him. As you said, leading the team in receptions, and he's got a lot of hype going into the season this year.
When you look at situations like this, I hate to see guys put themselves in a position where the choices that they make really affect not only their personal lives, but the outcome for the team. Something that when I was playing in college, our athletic director, Dave Luce, told us in a meeting one time. Number one, if you need a gun on a college campus, wherever you're going, if you feel like you need to carry a gun with you, you don't need to be there. Number two, if you're going to dibble and dabble in drugs and marijuana and things like that, you have to understand that the consequences last longer than the party. There's nothing good that's going to come from anything where marijuana or any kind of drugs is in play. And number three, you have to always make sure that you make smart choices when it comes to how you handle women. And so when you see guys consistently put themselves in situations where they're jeopardizing their freedom, they're jeopardizing their opportunity to be on a college campus, on a college team, and you're hurting your NFL draft stock. Things like this are what drop kids rounds and lose them a lot of money. I don't understand why in College Station at a place like Texas A&M, you need to be walking around with a gun. And I know right now in our society, it's a huge thing. Everybody is talking about gun rights and gun laws, and everybody feels like they need to carry a gun around. I can promise you that if you're on a Division I campus playing football, you don't need a gun on campus.
The great American philosopher Stephen A. Smith once said, "Stay off the weed." Token words to live by. And then, of course, the whole gun thing and everything else coming with the situation. Pretty important, too. We'll continue to keep you updated at 247sports.com and Gig 'em 24/7 relating to this issue. But let's now move to something in the SEC that's drawing some headlines. Last June's recruiting blitz and a lack of work-life balance in today's day and age in college football, NIL, transfer portal, so on and so forth, nearly led one of the game's greats out of the sport. Kirby Smart admitted at THSCA conference that he almost left the game because of everything that's going on. Now, he's made it clear today at SEC Media Days that was a little bit overblown, but I do think, Carl, this draws the engaging conversation of the struggle of a work-life balance being found for today's college coaches.
Well, there is no balance. There is no work-life balance if you want to be good. Guys have to go all in. Recruiting is a 365 thing. Managing your roster is a 365-day thing. If you talk now about the addition of the transfer portal and the recruiting that takes place with that, you talk about having to manage NIL, there's really no way for you to have any type of balance. And with the money that guys are getting paid, like Kirby Smart, what do they have to do? I think that during the time that COVID went on, what happened for a lot of guys is that was the first time many coaches were around their families for an extended period of time. And so it can start to mess with your head a little bit as you reconnect with your family, and then you were forced to go back to work and go right back into recruiting. And that whole period was crazy in itself. But I think that Kirby Smart is a guy, he's a football lifer. He knows about burning the oil on both ends. He worked for Coach Saban at Alabama for years. And so I can definitely see his thought process on that. But there is no work-life balance for guys that are trying to win at the top level like he is.
Now, this is a 365-day-a-year job, 24/7 for these top-level programs. Even the programs that aren't the top programs have to keep up, or they're going to get left behind. And with kind of like what Carl said with the transfer portal, it's a totally different era. So I think that's one of the reasons the NCAA is thinking about passing a rule with unlimited coaches and unlimited recruiting staffs, because that can take a lot of pressure off the coaches to where the coaches can coach and the recruiting people can manage the recruiting part of the job. But I think, Kirby Smart at a place like Georgia, every single recruit in the country or someone who thinks they're a recruit wants to go visit Georgia. They want to go visit the top facilities. They want to meet Coach Smart. They want to see the weight room and what it's like. So, it is a constant job that never ends and never sleeps. I can see how these coaches get burned out, but these guys are coaches for a reason. They paid their dues to get to this level. A lot of these coaches have slept in their cars and slept on the offices and worked their way up from high school. So they've got a lot of these guys have young families that they have to balance a little bit with their coaching lifestyle, and it's very difficult to do. So I expect Kirby Smart to be at Georgia for a long time. I think he was probably over exaggerating a little bit, but when COVID hit, that was a real deal for these coaches, because they went from hosting a lot of Zoom calls to hosting a couple of hundred kids basically every day at their facility for the times that they were able to come on campus.
It's interesting because I remember just right after winning the NCAA championship, Kirby Smart is in an interview saying he's worried about the direction of the game. And then shortly after that, Georgia loses offensive line coach Matt Luke to retirement because he said he wanted to simply spend time with his family. Interesting, potentially, the conversations going behind closed doors. We talk about that Georgia program, but I'm glad personally that Kirby Smart is still with us in college football today. And like you mentioned, Blake, he should be there for a very long time. We just need to address some of these things going on in the world of college football. Speaking of things going on in the world of college football, obviously NIL, one of these big factors that drives coaches to face constant concern, if you will. But some good news for Red Raiders down in Lubbock, Texas. Texas Tech is set to contract out roughly $25,000 to about 100 players on the Red Raiders roster. There's also some cash headed to the walk-ons in Lubbock. Really interesting effort here from a collective down there. But Blake, you know a lot about what's going on here. Illuminate us on the situation and your viewpoint of it all.
Well, I don't know if I know a lot about what's going on, but I know that the main players involved, John Sellers and Cody Campbell, and they're from here in Fort Worth, and they have a lot of money. I mean, these guys have sold their oil company for $6.4 billion. So these guys are billionaires. They're big Texas Tech supporters. This is how you can change the game in college football, in my opinion, by throwing a lot of money into your football program for players. What they're doing, though, is not really that, in my opinion. I think the $25,000 per player is an awesome thing, and I think it's what every college should do. I think this is kind of what the NCAA was kind of hoping more of a model of when it came up with the NIL stuff, not the millions of dollars, for or not, maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of dollars for even high school recruits to do stuff. So it's a great thing for these kids. What I think they would be better served to spend more money on top players. I don't think you're going to get a lot of the top recruits in Texas or the country to go to Texas Tech for $25,000. I don't think that that's their intention anyway. I think that they want to be known as developers, and everyone on the team gets the equal share of the pie, which I respect totally. But I think if they were to invest that money and maybe double it and pay, maybe 25 studs an extra $100,000 each, they'd probably end up getting some, top recruits on campus that would probably elevate their football program quicker. So I think that's an awesome thing that they're doing. I think every single, kid in the country now looks at Texas Tech and thinks, that's what we should be doing at the school I go to, because, we're not getting anything close to that.
I think when I see what Texas Tech is doing, I wonder if the NCAA would have did that across the board for all kids, would we even be where we're at right now? Because I think that's all it would have took at that time to make everybody happy. I agree with Blake from the standpoint that if I was Tech, I might have took that money and used it for top kids that could really impact my program in recruiting. But you have to respect the model that they're trying to do for every kid on their football program. But I can't help but to think, could the NCAA have regained control or kept control and kept this thing from going out of whack if they just would have allowed all the players to be paid somewhere in that $25,000 amount?
Yeah, what's interesting to me also, Carl, is that they're paying the 85 scholarship players that they have, and they're paying for I believe 15 walk-on spots. So they're 100 players total. Well, there's 110 walk-ons that come to camp every year, and then depending on Title IX, they can carry up to 125 to 130 players. Well, the 10 kids that don't get paid the 25,000 that are walk-ons, I wonder how that goes over with them, because how do you decide who your top 15 walk-ons are out of the 25 that go to camp? So that'll be an interesting deal. And when you look at the money that these guys have that are billionaires, I mean, you think they would just go ahead and just pay the extra 10 guys their $25,000, but I guess that's why they're elite oil businessmen, and we're talking college football.
Maybe they can get Vince McMahon to bring a wrestling ring down there and put it on the 50-yard line and let them have a Royal Rumble, and then the last guy stand and get the money, and the guys who get thrown out early, they're going to be the 10 guys left on the outside.
Yeah, I would love to know how they evaluate who the 10 guys that don't get the stipend are.
I mean, guys, we're talking about a program that just dropped, $200 million on facilities upgrades. So maybe the cash is running thin, but again, I think billions of dollars is a lot. I'm no mathematician though. So we'll see how they try and deal all this stuff out moving forward, but good stuff so far down there in Lubbock, Texas. Speaking of good stuff, I want to know, because we've got another film breakdown here on the block from our guy, Blake Brockermeyer. You played the offensive tackle position pretty well, Blake. You just watched a guy at Ryan Hayes at Michigan. What stood out to you on the film?
Ryan Hayes was part of the 2021 Joe Moore award-winning Michigan offensive line class. It goes to the best offensive line in college football. He's played left tackle for a couple of years for Michigan. He's tall, he's long, he's athletic. He could be a pitcher at Michigan right now if he wanted to be. I mean, he's a very good athlete. His film has a little bit of flaws in it. He's got some things that he needs to work on. I watched some of his games, and he struggled against Penn State last year. But what I like about Ryan Hayes is the way the NFL evaluates prospects. It's their long-term upside, and he's got all the intangibles that you need to play at a high level in the NFL. He's worked very hard at his craft. this offseason. His spring game that I watched, it looked like he'd improved a lot. So I think as the season went on last year, he got better and better. He's got some little technique issues that I think he can work out. He's got a great offensive line coach in Sharon Moore. I know he works with some people outside of the Michigan program as well that I know. So I think his long-term outlook is good. I expect him to have a huge season this year. And I think Michigan is going to have a very good offensive line again this year.
Sharon Moore has been doing an excellent job developing the offensive line and guys getting them to play at a high level in offense and all the different things that they ask from a terminology standpoint. I think Sharon Moore is doing a great job at developing those guys and making sure that they're ready to not only win games at Michigan, but go on and have success in the National Football League.
We will see what Michigan can do in 2022. I highlighted them recently in an offensive line article I put together, and it feels like the Wolverines could be a contender yet again for the Joe Moore Award, but we will see what Sharon Moore can piece together with a guy like Ryan Hayes and others. Let's do a little blast from the past, shall we? Because we have a very interesting documentary coming out soon on Netflix about who? None other than a one Manti Te'o. If you don't remember, he captivated the college football world in a whole big saga regarding his non-existent girlfriend, and now it will play out on a screen near you. Carl, you could go any number of directions with this one, but how excited are you that we're going to be able to watch this very soon?
I need answers. You know, I want to watch it because I need answers. I never understood how we got here. I never understood how a guy that's the star of Notre Dame could have a fake girlfriend. You didn't see her. You didn't go on a date. And like it was this elaborate story behind it. I really don't understand it. I'm hoping that the documentary answers some of those questions, but it was just a really confusing deal for me from the jump that, I mean, we got FaceTime, we got all of it. We got, back then we had Skype. You have all of these means of communication. And it's like, at the end of the day, you were texting the guy behind this computer, and it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm with Carl. Like when it first came out, I was like, "What the hell is catfishing anyway?" I've never even heard of that before. So I'm an older guy, so that was new for me. I've been married a long time, so I think, you know, sadly, Manti Te'o was a Heisman Trophy contender at Notre Dame. He was having an incredible season, and then all this hit the public, and I feel like, you know, sadly, that's his legacy now, is this whole catfishing thing. I feel like he never rebounded as the same player that he was before that. He went on to have a so-so pro career. I can't imagine what it was like in the locker room in the NFL there, because locker rooms are some of the most ruthless places for an individual to go. I mean, it is guys mess with guys what more than you would ever imagine. And I imagine that Manti Te'o was a huge target in the locker rooms of the NFL teams he played for. But you know, that's, you know, like I said, sadly, his legacy.
Well, I'm just hoping that the documentary gives us some type of reasonable explanation on how that all came about, because it's just really confusing to me.
Well, luckily, we won't have to worry about Blake ever being catfished, I hope. But I'm also hoping we get some really good stories here very soon whenever this Manti Te'o documentary eventually drops. All right, speaking of surfing the web and hopefully not getting catfished, Carl Reed, you need a really good high school football game to go to in the opening week of the high school season, wherever it's going down. This is your call to action to the high school football public. Take it away, my friend.
Man, I just want to go to a big time game, but I want to go somewhere where the atmosphere is going to be crazy. I'm going to drag Colin down here with me to this game. We want to go somewhere where all the fans are going to be over there. They're shutting the town down. I want them to take us to the best bar, the best restaurant. All right. We want to have a hell of a time wherever we go. And we want to see great football, great teams, great prospects and players, guys that we want to talk about for years to come. And he doesn't know it yet, but we're going to drag Blake down here with us too. He doesn't know it yet, but he's coming too. We're going to bring the whole block crew to your high school game. But we want a real deal, big time show to go to, and we want to enjoy the moment. We're going to come by your high school. We want to see the way you do things, and we want an epic moment to be a part of.
Well, here we go. Blake, we're all in this together at this point, but you at home, if you are a coach with a potential candidate for that opening week game, go ahead and tweet at Carl Reed, at Blake Brockermeyer, at myself on Twitter, and put hashtag the block with your game. We will analyze it and see what the final candidate is for that opening week trip of high school ball. Hey, while you're at it, by the way, go ahead and like, share, subscribe to the brand new YouTube channel and to us here on The Block. We continue to build this thing up as we head towards the 2022 season. Check these two out on Twitter and then head to 247sports.com for all things college football. Gentlemen, it's always fun.